We walked into that meeting and that child walked right up and sat right in his chair. And Tim was just standing there looking at her. I was like, oh, all right. He's like,
Okay. The SORTA Board of Trustees, August 17th, 2021. Pledge of allegiance. Where's the? We put the flag up there. What are we doing? Normally it's on the screen, yeah. All right, well, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I think we're going to get caught up with the slides here, right? Okay. So while we're waiting to get the presentation caught up, we can start with public comment. So we have 4 folks signed up. If somebody meant to sign up and did not, please let me know. And I apologize, I can't read the name that was written here. Do you know who? Heidi, help me out. Is that Jamar? Jamar? Yeah, did you sign up first? Is that your name? Sorry. It's lovely, I just couldn't read it right.
I used to get that a lot in grade school. Can you guys hear me? Okay, you feel okay. I just wanted to speak. I know with the big shock we done had over the past few weeks on the operations side. I just wanted to speak. We got a big job ahead of us, and I think the months coming, I kind of see where we all dropped the ball, and I'm gonna say all of us because we all have a civic duty to, preserve what we have with Metro. With it being a big institution in the city, I just want to speak that with the Reinvent Metro, I think we do need more community engagement, more engagement from the operators. We're leaving a lot of people behind with the plans, and I think that's the biggest term is plan. And I don't think, we ain't been doing a good job with planning. So I'm just speaking on the light of that because it's not you guys, per se, that the public sees it's this. And, after working 12, 13 hours trying to find a bathroom and you hearing the public outcry, they aren't calling you guys. They're going off on the operators. And, that's the thing we need to change. We have to change that culture and be more transparent with the public moving forward. So that's all I wanted to say.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having this open session this evening. I am Julie Sellers, and I am the CFT president. I'm here this evening to plead with you to do the right thing for our city's high school students. As you are aware, CPS and Metro, they have had a partnership to provide direct service routes for over 40 years for our students. CFT did endorse and contribute a hefty donation to help pass the transit levy last November. And I'm sure that you can understand the outrage that we are feeling when we heard that the cuts were being made at this late of date. I did put in a public information request yesterday to the SORTA board, and I hope that I am able to get this information in a timely manner so that we can get to the bottom of this, of how did something like this happen, and how did it happen that it is having such a negative impact and such poor planning. I'm sure that all of you understand the amount of concern and worry, not just for parents, but for teachers, because the kids are going to have to get on the bus. Sometimes up to 2 hours, they're going to be riding a bus that would have been a 15 or 20-minute ride. Now, some families in CPS, they have the luxury to say, I'm just going to drive my kids to school, because I don't want to put my kids on a bus and have them transfer somewhere. But every child in our district does not have the opportunity to drive their kids to school, and every family in CPS doesn't have the resources and the luxury to purchase a car for their child to drive to school. And we are concerned because it's going to cause students to come into school late. It's going to cause kids to have to transfer downtown. If they miss a bus, how will their parents know that that's going to happen? So it is a huge safety concern. They're concerned that there will be people on the bus. We just had a teacher at our rally talking about when she was in high school, she went to SCPA and they did not have direct routes, and she had to ride routes with just the regular bus routes. And she said that she, as a young girl in high school, she was sexually harassed on a regular basis by other people riding the buses. And she said it always scared her, but she still had to go through that before she even started her day. The amount of time on buses is going to increase for many kids. The kids who live in Winton Terrace and go to Woodward, those kids can get to school on a direct route in 17 minutes. They will have to transfer, and they're going to be on the bus for over an hour from Winton Terrace. And so those are areas where people don't want to just open the door and tell their kids, go out and hope you make it to school on time. I do understand that there is a shortage of drivers. There's a shortage of employees all over this country because many baby boomers have been retiring. This didn't just happen this month. This is something that has been going on since last year, and it is mismanagement of Metro to have not done more to recruit and retain the drivers that they have. The way that if you cannot get enough drivers at $16 an hour, maybe you have to pay $20 an hour like the school bus drivers are paid. They are having sign-on bonuses, $2,000, $4,000. CPS just hired 300 teachers. Well, there's a shortage of teachers, but you have to make people want to come and work for your organization. And that's either through better pay or better culture, or most likely both. And so until that is addressed, you're going to have a shortage of drivers. But you are putting our city's children at risk. You're creating an environment that could cause an increase of student dropouts. And how many kids are going to want to go out? In this city, it is not the culture of homeowners and property owners to clean their sidewalks. Kids are afraid to walk on those icy sidewalks, so they end up walking in the streets. We have had so many pedestrian accidents where students have been killed and seriously injured, and what worries us is that this is going to continue. We have been working with the city for 3 years to try to get better signage, lights, crossing walks for our kids around the high schools, but because it's not required by the state, they have refused to do it. It's not safe for pedestrians around many of our high schools. And when this decision was made, no one in this room has ridden the bus enough to know of the dangers. And parents are worried and concerned. And it's going to be a decision that's not going to just impact teachers and parents. It's going to impact all of you because you were responsible for this happening. And it is something that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. So that is all that I have to say this evening, and I hope that you will make the right decision to reinstate our routes, and I hope that I get this public information request from you as soon as possible so we can get to the bottom of what is really the actual cause of this. I don't believe it's the bus drivers and the shortage of drivers. That could have been corrected. Thank you.
Michelle Dillingham.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michelle Dillingham. I am on staff at the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers, and ever since this decision was made public, we have been flooded with concern and stress and worry and consternation. We are coming off a year, an incredibly difficult year for our parents, children, and teachers amid COVID, now with the Delta variant. To have this sudden and radical change in the level of service is causing an unacceptable level of anxiety for our city's families. Our teachers know our children. We know what they deal with just getting to school when things are normal. Never mind the fact that now you're asking families to have their children ride routes that are not dedicated to our students. We are appealing to you as appointed SORTA board members. Some decisions were made by people in administration who, it's not productive to play the blame game at this point. We are appealing to you to please get into the solution and restore these dedicated routes to our students. Our city voters overwhelmingly supported the Metro levy. And to have these cuts be put at the feet of our children and our families is very disrespectful and hard to take. It is considered a public good, what you do, a public service. It makes our city go. And to cut it and cause this chaos, we hope as appointed board members that you will please fix this. Thank you for your time.
Antoine Clay.
Good evening, everybody. I've been riding Metro for years when I was a kid, and I've been going to high school, and I graduated high school, and I was riding the high school routes for years now, and the service was good back then, but around this time, things getting bad, and it's I cutting extra service off like. How you gonna let kids get to school on time and they ride regular routes? Like some student asked me, he getting out from football practice, he trying to get home, and he went on a bus for an hour, and he trying to get home from school. Well, some kids got activities, school activities like football practice, basketball practice, maybe soccer or baseball practice. They need transportation to get them to school and back home. So some kids probably got jobs to go to work and get home, and they want to get to school on time too, because sometimes their school starts like around 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 or 9:15. They get to school when the school before the school starts. That's when Metro picks them up and take them to school. To get them at a certain time. That's how Metro was doing. I was looking at the extra service, how buses get to school before the school starts. Like that school starts at 7:45. That bus get there at 7:30. That's 15 minutes early to get them to classes. They get the classes on time like 15 minutes early. That's when Metro picks them up on their street time. And I just want to get the extra service back because it gets the kids in school better. And the kids deserve better because I don't know, extra service, you cutting that off, it's gonna be a problem. How they gonna get to school? I don't want to see a kid be late for school, and they gotta be at school at a certain time. And I was trying to make sure we can move forward with this project to go event in Metro, create more routes for students to get to schools. That's what we wanted to do. I know I understand where y'all coming from. I've been riding Metro for years, and students want to get to school on time. Sometimes, like extra service, like school routes, it'll go out of hand sometimes in the morning. They get ready to go to school and go home. Like when the school's out, you gonna have some issues. Like kids want to start fights after school, and the teachers, the principals tell them to go home. You know how kids are. They gonna refuse to do that. They tell them to go home, and a lot of them get in trouble, get arrested. That's what happens last year because the Metro driver, one of the drivers had to deal with it with bad kids that don't play by the rules. He said like they be cussing out their drivers. Like, that's not nice. You can't cuss out the driver, and he's trying to take you home. Cause you know how it is. If it continues, he'll put you off. Then you have to walk. That's gonna be it. I don't want that to happen again. That's my comments.
Can anyone else go? I'm sorry, I didn't get here in time because of parking. I'm a parent. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it. I'm a proud Cincinnatian, a proud graduate of Cincinnati Public Schools, Schroeder Paideia High School, and also a proud graduate of the University of Cincinnati. I would like to know how many of your children will be riding the bus this year. So that says a lot. And no disrespect, but I don't think you all understand. Now, I'm not here speaking for me because I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel and make sure my daughter has car arrangements to and from school. So I'm not here on behalf of me because it's going to work for me. But I'm here because it's not going to work for other parents in her school. And I heard the most powerful thing recently. When things work, then people want to change it because it creates a disadvantage. And the majority of the kids that go to Cincinnati Public Schools are disadvantaged children who live in predominantly low-income areas. And that's not fair to them. That's not fair. And if you really want to know, how about that first week of school, you get on that bus. You travel the roads that they're going to be traveling. I really, really do ask you to challenge yourself to go and pick a school and you do the route yourself. You do the route and you see what it's like for these kids to have to not only wait for the bus, but let's say, for instance, they get on the bus and there's no room. So a kid who wants to go to school, who wants to get an education, now has to wait an additional hour and a half just to get to school on time. When they got up early, they ate breakfast on time, they got to the bus stop on time, but when they got to the bus stop, there was no room for them. So what you're saying to Cincinnati Public School students, there is no room for you. So what I'm asking you to do is make room for them. I know it's a difficult decision. I know it's probably going to ruffle some more feathers because we dealing with politics in the city, but I'm asking you, make room for them. And while you're thinking about it, go get on those buses and make room for yourself too.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. And we do appreciate those comments. Look, I know there's plenty of information out there. I don't know that all of it's accurate. I would argue that not all of it was said here was accurate. And we'll get into some of the details later on during Daryl's report in terms of all the things that have been going on with the school to make sure that we're making progress here and that we have a plan that will work for students. So certainly want to make sure everybody has a chance to comment on that as we get to that section of the program. And obviously the goal of all of us is to make sure students get to school on time and safely and home. And so we'll continue to have that discussion. We can also go through the fact that there just aren't enough operators, and there's several things have changed over the last year that made that a more difficult challenge, so we'll get into those facts as well. But with that in mind, let's start with the action items. So approval of the board minutes from the July meetings. They're in your board book. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at those. I would accept any motions to approve.
Move to approve.
Motion properly moved. Any second?
Second.
Motion properly moved and seconded. Any questions regarding the minutes? Are we ready to vote? Remind me, is this voice or? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say right. Okay, the minutes have been approved. All right, Finance Committee update. Rod.
Good afternoon. We had a pretty straightforward meeting. We went through the profit and loss statements and the investment of funds report. Cindy, are you going to go through those today? Or no?
No, I'll just be going through, well, I'll go through the profit and loss statement.
Okay. Do we need to vote on the investment fund report?
That's just in the committee meeting, yep.
So, we'll hear about that.
Okay, thank you. And I think fuel charges are going down too. That's good news, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's so exciting.
Okay. Well, I think some more excitement in the Planning Operations Committee, Blake.
We had a long Planning and Operations Committee meeting. We do have a few action items to be considered tonight. They are not on the consent agenda, so they are individual items, primarily because one was just added at the last minute, and we wanted to make sure it was thoroughly reviewed. And that's the service agreement with Fifth Third Bank for Route 11. And then there was one other item there. And then out of it, we also had a need for a motion to accept the public meeting comments that were distributed. And I hope everybody's had a chance to look at. Obviously, the bulk of our meeting was reviewing performance data and discussing planning and operations around CPS service. Central focus was on, are we getting kids to school safely, efficiently, effectively? Do we have a good plan? And I think that's a question that we are continuing to ask. We'll continue to ask today with the presentation later and in the weeks to come, months to come. So that is what we covered in planning and ops. Do you want to handle the action items, Craig, or
Usually
do I?
you do the motions, and then yeah.
All right, so
do the
the
voting.
first is the acceptance of the public meeting comments. I think I can go ahead with the motion. I move that the SORTA board accept the attached public meeting summary and comments from August 5th, 2021, and be properly documented in the minutes of the SORTA board meeting.
Okay, so properly moved. Anybody want a second?
A second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
Just a question.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to accept the comments that were made. Are there any actions that are needed or staff requests to respond to any of those comments?
We have responded to the comments, the ones that came in through email and with phone numbers. We have already responded to them.
That's what I would like to have be noted. That
Okay.
we accepted the comments, but they were responded.
Yes.
Okay. And I do appreciate, I think we had about 130 people participate online on that. And I do apologize, there's one or two folks that their comments were at least not cordial. I'll say that, and a little coarse, so that was not the intent, but we appreciate everybody's engagement with that. Any other questions or comments on that? No? All right. Voice? Okay. All in favor of accepting the public comments, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say right. Okay, thank you.
The second item is the proposed resolution, the approval of the contract for Valley View and Queensgate radio tower repairs. We have 3 radio towers, and 2 are in need of repair. The total cost is $140,750. And my understanding is that there are some FCC compliance issues that we have to respond to, and there is a little bit of maintenance, correct me if I'm wrong, that is kind of looking forward to making sure that these towers are good for at least 5 more years,
Yes.
which is our anticipated need for those.
Yes, it is a maintenance agreement for 5 years.
So, so that is the item. Should I move that we pass that? Or I move that
There you go, okay.
we approve the contract for Valley View and Queensgate radio tower repair.
Properly moved. Anybody want to second that?
I second.
Okay. Thank you, Larry, for putting on your mic. You got to remember to put on your mic when you comment. So properly moved and seconded. Any questions about this contract?
I do want to comment and make sure it's acknowledged that we only received 1 bid for this, and we covered that extensively in the committee meeting. Obviously, we desire having multiple bids, but staff did go out and try to get additional bids and just didn't receive them.
Somewhat
So-
specialized.
Yep, okay.
Okay. Chanel, is this? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. One more?
The last action item has to do with a service agreement with Fifth Third Bank for the Route 11. In short, we operate additional kind of branch off the Route 11 to, I think it's their call center location.
That's correct.
So this is just a renewal of that contract that has been going on for many years since they moved out there. So I approve the service, I move that we approve the service agreement with Fifth Third Bank for Route 11.
All right, properly moved. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, properly moved and seconded. Any questions on this? This has been a nice partnership with Fifth Third. Sorry, I couldn't. What's the total contract amount? Is that what you're asking?
Initial.
When we initially, in committee, I asked about the initial amount for that, for the route.
Okay.
I just wanted to see what the.
Yeah, sure.
I'll make sure you have that tomorrow.
We had a discussion, we were trying to understand the evolution
Right, had it
of
expanded
the
or not, yeah.
finances there and understand that over time. We had the numbers just for this contract and thought it would be a good idea to understand
Yeah, sure,
how it's
absolutely would,
evolved
yep.
over time.
It is
that meeting.
very, very similar each year. It doesn't change much. It's based on what it costs us per mile and per hour, but I'll make sure you guys all have that tomorrow. It's very similar.
Okay, thanks. Anything else from planning and ops?
Those were the action items.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for everyone participating. We did have an executive.
Hold on.
Oh, I thought we already. Sorry, I thought we did. Sorry, you asked a question. I got lost. All right, sorry about that.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Blake. No other questions for him? We did have an executive committee meeting today regarding review of senior leadership, and so that was done in executive session, and so nothing to report beyond that. Okay. Let's go through the financial report, Cindy.
Good evening. We're talking about the, sorry, thank you.
Turned it on for you.
Thank you. So we're covering the first 7 months of the year, ending through July 31st. Our total revenue was, can you put the P&L up, Chanel, wherever you are? Let's see if we. Yeah, looking at a profit loss statement, we had total revenue of $13 million, which was favorable budget by $2.7 million or 26.7%. Total expense of $9.4 million was favorable to budget by $882,000 or 8.6%. There was an operating surplus before any adjustments of $3,617,000 for the month and $15,650,000 for the year. We did book an estimated $7,786,000 for the sales tax revenue was recorded for the month. Capital revenue was recorded to offset the operating surplus in order to build the capital reserve. Some of the most significant factors that were driving the results for the month are fair revenue, driven by unfavorable ridership, was unfavorable to budget by $262,000 or 22.1%. Metro fare revenue alone was unfavorable to budget by $253,000 for the month. We did record CRISA funds for the unbudgeted federal stimulus funds of $2,672,000 were accrued for the month, and for the year we've recorded $10,688,000. Wages and benefits are favorable to budget by $471,000 or 6%, which was primarily driven by favorable bargaining unit wages. The fuel and lubricants was pretty much flat, just slightly unfavorable, $10,000 or 2.5%, mainly due to higher unfavorable budget miles per gallon, which were offset by higher than anticipated miles for the month. Our other group, which was favorable to budget, $417,000 or 33.5%. That was mainly a result of outsourced services of $223,000, external advertising costs, which was $50,000 favorable to budget, and our leases and rentals, which was $29,000 favorable to budget. And that is about it for the month of July. Thank you.
Questions on the financial report? Sorry about that. No, I know this was reviewed in depth in the committee meeting. Okay. Turn it over to Daryl. What I would say is he's going to get into some of the CPS discussions, and I think it wasn't a large formal program, but this is an opportunity for you all to ask questions, right? We reviewed a number of things last month, and we can go back through those. There's a lot of activity that's been going on that we're getting, broadly positive feedback on, and so Daryl will take you through that. But this is a chance to ask questions if you want to, right? So let's make sure we do. Obviously, there's a lot of questions coming to us, and let's be sure we're ready to answer them.
All right. The start of this conversation with regular routes to school started with some of the challenges we've had with hiring operators, and because of the COVID and a number of other reasons, the number of absenteeism, the high percentage of absenteeism that we've been experiencing over the course of the last year. I will mention, as I mentioned in a few of the other meetings, in April and May of last year, we missed between 300 and 400 trips on extra service a month. And the difference between the extra service routes and our regular service routes, if an extra service bus doesn't show up, that kid can't get on another bus to get to school. So when an extra service vehicle doesn't show up, that child is stranded. So to make sure that we did not strand children like we did last year, we looked at what are the possibilities of regular service. We did this in conjunction with CPS's transportation department. We rolled out a plan with their department to make sure this would work. Our two teams worked together on this. So the way the regular service will actually work is it's not just the regular service as it stands today. We made some adjustments to all of the routes to make sure they got closer to the schools than they are today. So our extra service routes, last year, the average travel time on our extra service routes were 55 minutes. 55 minutes. The average travel time on the regular service routes for this year, with the additional service that we are putting out, is 45 minutes. The walking distance was 0.35 miles between the bus stop and school, the average walking distance. The average walking distance with the new service, with the adjustments that we made, as well as with the additional service that we're putting out, is less than 200 feet. So the children that are riding the buses, they have less travel time on average. They have less walking time on average. We met with CPS's board, and had a lot of conversations with them as well. After meeting with the board, we actually went out and met with all of the principals of the schools. And at the board meeting, CPS's board meeting last night, one of the things that was discussed was what their comfort level with our plans rolling out the school year this year. How was their concern for the children? And they said when they first heard this, it was over 10. And now, after understanding how the program works, they said their comfort level, their anxiety is a 2 to a 3, which is exactly the same as it is every year. So it's not just the current service. We have added a lot of additional trips to make sure that there's capacity on our buses and to make sure the child can get to and from school on time. One of the things that I wish had have happened earlier is the communication with the parents, because what happened is the parents went on to the app to see how their child would get to and from school, if you didn't put in a date after school started, it actually looked at the summer service. So when you go in and look, it looked as if it would take 2 hours or maybe more than 2 hours. But once you put that date in for after school starts with the additional service that we're putting out, what you find is the average trip time for the child is actually less than it was on regular service buses. At the start of school, starting on Thursday, we will have staff from here at every transfer point to make sure that the children don't get lost or they understand how to transfer. We have been attending all of the orientations at all of the schools. We have met with all of the principals to make sure we mediate any challenges that they have. On the 19th and 20th, on the kids' first day of school, our service will be free so that we make sure every child can get on the bus to get to school, because they don't actually get their school passes until they actually get to school their first day. So we're making sure. One of the other things I'd like to say is our bus service is safe. We have amazing bus drivers here. Our bus drivers are mothers, their fathers, their grandmothers, their grandfathers, their uncles and aunts. And if you read the paper, you hear things about our bus drivers pulling over because they see a child walking down the street without shoes on. They pull those children on our buses and make sure the police are called and they take care of those children. If any of the children are on our buses, if they have any question, our operators are amazing people. They will take care of the students as they go to and from school. We'll also be at the schools for the first couple of weeks of school to make sure that all of those changes, that any adjustments that we have to make, we'll be able to make. The process that we have put in place will not leave a child at a bus stop stranded. And we will continue to make sure that the service we put out will meet the needs of the children. We'll continue to have conversations with the principals at the school as well as with CPS Transportation. I'd be happy to take any questions anybody would have.
I just want to clarify, you said it's free. Is it free for the parents or just the children? Is it free for
The first 2 days,
Yeah.
it will be free for everyone to
Okay.
make sure that we don't miss any children, because they don't get their passes to the first day.
And to allow the parents to go with them to make sure they feel safe.
One of the other things we did is we delivered last week to CPS 2,000 day passes that they passed out to all of the schools. So if any of the parents anytime this week want to go out and ride the bus and take their children out on the bus, they can do that for free. We delivered those to CPS last week.
I have a couple questions from a point of clarification. I know one of the mother of the last speakers said that if someone missed a bus, they'd have to wait an hour and a half for the next bus. There's no school system no routes going by schools that have that frequency.
No, as a matter of fact, the frequency on these buses going to and from school are between 5 and 7 minutes. So in the past, if you had an extra service bus, if you missed that bus, there's not another bus coming. Under the new program, if a child misses a bus, there is another bus coming along in 5 to 7 minutes, and their pass will get them on that bus. Unlike previously, the extra service buses, there weren't. The other thing I'd like to point out is that in past school years, 33% of the students already rode our regular service routes. So this isn't something completely new to the students, because a third of the students already rode Metro's regular service routes. Another thing I have to point out for clarification, it is illegal for us to run school service or dedicated bus service. All of our service is open to the public. Legally, it has to be open to the public, because it is illegal for us to run school service.
Darryl, can you explain the shadow bus?
So what a shadow bus is, at the beginning of the school year, we want to make sure that we're going to take care of all the students. So we're going to have some buses out there that if a school is experiencing a real high volume of kids coming out and they're struggling getting a bunch of kids on a bus, we'll send out some shadow buses to pick up whatever those extra students are. We're going to make sure that we don't leave students out there. So we'll have some shadow buses out in the neighborhoods. So if we have a need for an extra bus at a school, that bus won't be coming from the garage. They'll already be out in the neighborhood, and we'll send them out to pick up whatever slack, if there is any, at those schools.
And you
We,
would know that how?
We will have our street supervisors at the schools, at the transfer points. We will be in the field, making sure that we're covering making whatever adjustments that we need to make. And our operations people, our planning people, they will all be out in the field the first couple of weeks of school, and if longer if we need to. We'll make sure that we'll take care of these children. We'll be at the transfer points. We'll be at the schools. We'll be very visible. We'll have on Metro gear if there are any questions. And again, like I said, our operators are amazing people. Our operators will help any student. A student can get on a bus and ask an operator. They'll take care of the kids.
Daryl, with the extra services, the legalities that you talked about, was that always the case, or was CPS grandfathered into not having any local other riders on there other than students, or they've always been with others?
It's always been the case. It is illegal for us to run charter service. And the public does ride the extra service buses. This is not something new. It's a law across the country. It is illegal for public transportation to run charter service.
And my understanding is this is way more helpful to students because of the 5 to 7 minutes that's coming every. So is that going to be a continuous loop on this new route?
Yes.
24 hours a day? Or?
No, just during the peak time when kids are coming to school and when they're leaving school. One of the other positives behind this, so if a student is having trouble with math, they now can stay after school for an extra 5 or 10 minutes and go to their teacher and get some help. And when they come out, they don't have to worry about that extra service bus being gone. They can get on the next bus that comes and they can get home.
What is the peak time include extracurricular activities through like 6 or 7?
It does not include extracurricular activities. For extracurricular activities, baseball, football, chess club, so forth and so on, we give special passes to the school, and they give those special passes to the students so they can get home after that.
I think what Rob was asking was that the passes are good till what time? I know we're
6:30.
So yes, they could stay for extracurriculars. I think previously, oftentimes for extracurriculars, we were requested to give a pass that could be handed out specifically, but this way they'll be covered. I think Antoine brought that up as a question of how do kids get home if they stay after school. This gives them much more option to do so.
Yes.
Got a question. Has there been a study of the average time from pickup to drop off on the students?
Yes, what we did is we looked at the average time for extra service buses, and then we actually took every single solitary student, their home address, what school they went to, what time their school started, and we compared their trip time, to extra service trip time last year, and it's actually 10 minutes less than it was last year. The average travel
But
time.
I think Larry was talking about how long it would take to get all the kids on a bus after school is what you're really asking, right?
No, pretty. Mike is off.
Okay.
But I'm speaking of, I know someone made a comment about the 2-hour ride. So from
So a lot of that, what had happened was, because there was no communication to the parents, they were going onto our app or to Google, and they were Googling what time the child had to leave the house to get to school, but they were looking at our summer service. So once school starts, there's a lot more service out after school starts than there was in the summer. So once you go in and you put in a date, August 19th, it gives you the new service. Parents were looking at this and seeing a 2 or 2.5 hour. Once you go in and put August 19th in with what time the school starts, what they were finding is there's a much, much, much less travel time. So we've been to 17 orientations at 10 schools. We'll be at orientations. There's one tonight. We'll be at orientations tomorrow. So we're making sure we're having conversations with the parents. And the response has been pretty good, because as a parent comes up and it says it takes my child 2.5 hours, what they're finding out is by putting in the correct date, it doesn't. One of the other positive things about this, last year there were about 400 students that had to take 3 buses to school. Under this new plan, there is no child whatsoever that has to take more than 2 buses to school. So where last year there were about 400 students taking 3 buses, there are none taking 3 buses to school. We have planned our service that every child can get to school within 2 buses.
There might be a choice to take 3 based on timing and things like that, but they don't have to.
But they don't have to. That's correct.
And I think, Larry, some of the discussions that have been had publicly, right, talking about 3, 4, 5 transfers, 3-hour trips. Those just the facts don't back that up. And so I think we do have to admit, right, that any change in service at any time will mean some people, even if most people improve, there will be some that's not quite as good, right? So you can find instances of the 13,000 students where it could be longer, but that's not generally the case, like Gerald said.
The parents I've spoken with, the two big concerns have been crowding and how busy the buses will be, and it sounds like that's been taken care of with the shadow buses and
the frequency.
The other big concern I hear from parents is around communication and how do I communicate about the inevitable challenges they're going to come up with, new ways of doing things. And so just curious what Metro has worked out around communications, around if a child does experience a challenge and how
So
you're
for
going to
the
respond.
beginning of the school year, we don't actually communicate with the parents. CPS communicates with the parents, but we do have a call center number that any parent can call. And, if they have questions about what bus their child takes, what time the buses come, we have a call center number that they can call and get information on that as well. As well as, our bus drivers are out there every day. If a student has a question for a driver, they can ask the driver. Our drivers understand other routes as well. They all have radios in their cars, in their buses. We'll also have street supervisors out at the transfer points so they can ask questions. But the parents can always call our call center to get detailed information, as well as use the app, either Google or Transit app, to get real-time information so you can actually see in real time where the buses are.
So, Daryl, I've talked with a lot of people, and I hear what you're saying, and that's fine. It sounds good. I appreciate adding the service. Parents are losing order. When these kids get out of school, and normally they will be directed to get right on their school routes, what's going to happen when these kids start gathering down here at Government Square? Business leaders are going to call their first calls to the cops. You know what I'm saying? So you have some community people from these communities are concerned because you have single parents working 2 or 3 jobs. That was their peace. That was their ability to know that my son or daughter is on this morning route going directly to school, and they're on this evening route directly home. That's all lost now. And I know for me, as a parent of a 9-year-old, this city is not safe enough for her to navigate like that. It's just not. And it's not about the shootings, it's not about the guns, it's day-to-day violence. Cincinnati is not safe enough for me to have my daughter out there like that. And I know it may be hard for some people to understand that, but get on some of these routes. Just walk through some of these communities. Leave your own community, go through a Avondale, go through a Price Hill, and see what these families are battling, transit-wise. So that is concerns me personally, but that's been a lot of the concerns that I've heard, even from my members that work at the city. They have to be at work at 7, but they had that safety net to know that their kid was at school based off of that extra service.
So we do have off-duty police officers at Government Square, and we are beefing up the off-duty police officers at Government Square as well as other transit centers for school.
I think, Maurice, the biggest challenge here, right, is the fact that if we didn't have enough operators to do the service, we were going to have kids stranded, not even be able to start their process, right? So I think I know that was the biggest risk, that we were going to end up with a system that just couldn't meet the needs at all, right?
Do we foresee this coming back as we grow more operators?
That is an option.
So I think a couple things, right? So we're continuing to hire like crazy, right? We've hired, 85 people this year or something like that, continue to do so. So we'll continue to hire up to the rate where it could be a potential. I do think we ought to make sure that, let's find out if this is working or not while we evaluate those options, right? That would make sense to me.
Well, I guess let me ask this again. Is it administration's plan to hire more to get back to the service?
we are hiring operators, and as many operators as we can. As was mentioned, we passed the tax levy, and we've promised the community more service, and we will be rolling out more service. So it is something that we are aggressively doing right now, and we will continue to aggressively hire operators.
Can I follow up on the after-school process? I just want to understand exactly what's going to happen. So, Maurice was saying before there were buses lined up at the school to take kids, and they were, I assume, right in front of the school or at the nearest spot. So, how is that changing on this plan?
There will be a bus coming every few minutes, and the kids will get on the buses as they come, and they will continually come as the kids are leaving school, and there'll be a bus every couple of minutes coming by the school to pick kids up.
Basically in the same space as before, but just different frequency?
Yes, in the same space. The other thing
Okay.
is, a lot of the schools have more than one route going to them. So the way the extra service routes worked, they would start in one community, go to another community, maybe another community, and then as they drop students off, they'll hit one school, then a second school, then a third school. So some of the kids actually got picked up, but had to go through the other neighborhoods and stop at other schools before it got to their school. That's one of the ways that we reduce the travel time on the buses, because now the child is taking the most direct route from their point of origin to their destination.
Thank you. I was looking at the maps in the public comment of each school, and I was trying to understand that, and it looked like the route lines were going right by the schools,
Yes.
as close as seemed possible.
Yes.
But I wanted to make sure that was true. So thank you for that comment.
And we've also been working with the principals for the best places that they would like to have the buses stop for the kids to get to schools.
And is that the kind of flex that we can adjust? Like if we see something on the first day that the stop needs to be moved 50 yards or 20 yards in one direction, is that something that we have the capability to fix?
Yes, we have been making adjustments for the last week, yes. And we will continue to make adjustments as we need to.
Daryl, I just want to understand, and that is something that has come out of your meetings with the principals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you just speak in a little more detail, aside from that issue, what else in general were they concerned about?
Their concerns were when school let out, their concern was where the kids were going to catch the bus. So we made all of those adjustments in conjunction with them, and I believe that's where, because it was us, CPS, the CPS administration, meeting with the schools and listening to the principals and them asking us to make these adjustments where their concern went from a 10+ to a 2 or 3, like last year or the year before. We've made several adjustments. We've committed to continue to meet with them as school starts and make other adjustments as we need to.
I want to make sure everyone gets questions answered if you have them. So I'm going to call it. Chelsea, have any thoughts or questions that we haven't addressed?
I know the communication lagged terribly, unfortunately, in this situation. So for future process changes and whatnot, what will that look like on our side and in conjunction with the school board?
So the school board has appointed someone else to negotiate our contracts. We will continue to meet with whoever they appoint, and hopefully, because as we started this process, we were under the understanding that they were all informed. As a matter of fact, I personally was told that they were informed. We'll continue, and we're in a little different time now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There there is an employee shortage across the country. It hits transit really hard. It's hit all industries really hard. We hope we move out of this pandemic and we can hire more. And it's not just public transportation. Yellow Bus is having the same issues. One of the things is that CPS moved one of the schools off of Yellow Bus to the program that we're running out this school year. And after the conversation, they attempted to move that school back to Yellow Bus, but Yellow Bus doesn't have enough operators to cover them as well. So I think the 7th and 8th graders are back on Yellow Bus, but the 9th through 12th will remain on SORTA. It is a national challenge for all transit agencies, public and private.
And I think it's fair to say that the bus routes, whatever they may be, are generally shared with the parents around that same time this year. Obviously, there's a little bit bigger change, but it's always been run through CPS. We'll work with CPS to make sure we are doing that in conjunction going forward.
Yes.
Daryl, can I make sure or ask you to make sure that as you continue to tweak the program and make the changes, please keep us informed?
I'd be
Okay,
happy.
I can't speak to CPS, but I can ask
Yes.
SORTA to keep us informed.
Yes.
Yeah, I suspect we could do that on a daily basis getting started, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. So I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but I know, Mo, you had a couple questions or comments. Anything else you want to add to the discussion?
It's a lot right now. It's aggravating as a parent, and like I said, I've been taking a beating, which we all should. I'm just gonna be honest with you, but I don't know, I'm gonna get with John and see if there's anything we can possibly do to up the starting pay outside of the CBA. We had a CBA on the table and they voted it down.
Yep.
So we can't say we need and we gotta have, and then the money was there. So we have to be creative to address. This is a need.
Yep.
This is not a service change. It's a need to regain that service back. It really is. It affects some individuals that need that service. You may not live that in your regular everyday life. You may not know what I'm speaking of. I'm a product of riding the extra service in public schools, and I know what that did for me. And I like I said, this is an unsafe city, and I don't care what people say, or if you disagree with me, look at the stats. Look beyond a gun or a knife, and look at the assaults and the robberies. Look at the missing kids. I can't get that call as a father that don't nobody know what my daughter is.
Well, I think it might be worth then looking as we look at options going forward, right? We had a third of the students were already riding this way. Maybe those weren't the right things to do either, but the staffing shortage does affect it, and I know we have a time to talk about
We have a school system with a large base of students on IEP. There are some deficiencies there. So you may have a large base of individuals catching that regular bus, but you got an even larger base of individuals who need that order. They need that system.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
Because it's a really important issue, right? So how is it handled for kids who maybe in their IEP are assessed as not able to navigate the bus system?
So I do know when we met with CPS, just as happenstance, right, they brought up 4 examples of students on IEPs that were able to ride a regular bus, but in the first 2 examples that they brought up are folks that were already riding regular service to get to school. So I think there is a broader issue here that needs to be addressed, but it probably isn't just this change, right? There's a broader issue, and this is what I think is really bringing an interesting discussion to bear to light. So we've had a third of the students getting to school this way, and now that everybody else is getting to school this way, there's some new questions coming up that we need to address broadly. I think we need to make the best of the service that as it's rolled out, because we just don't simply have people to do it any other way, and then monitor it, manage it, and then continue to look for options going forward.
But the students who couldn't navigate the bus system according to the professional assessment and IEP weren't riding extra service, were they?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure. I know the exact answer to that question, but I know the
Okay.
examples that were brought up were folks that were able to ride regular buses, and the examples they brought up were using the regular service rather than extra service to begin with.
So I keep going back and forth between this idea of a system that solves this kind of larger transportation network in the best way possible, and then the individual stories that we hear
Sure.
on social media or from the board members, and you know, I want to know that every kid, I think everybody here wants to know that every kid is going to get to school and get home safely. And so, like, how do we move between that system and then each individual case? Because they're kids, right? we have to. So this is my maybe my last question, maybe not. What is the process if it does come out that one kid has a long trip, or there's longer than is acceptable, whatever that definition is? Like, do they come to SORTA and say, this system isn't solving my transportation needs in the right way? Do they go to CPS? Okay, so they go to CPS, I'm seeing nods there. And then how does CPS communicate with us so that we can evaluate the transit system and make sure that we're responding?
So we are meeting with CPS's transportation department on a regular basis, multiple times a week now.
Okay.
We'll continue to. Again, we just did a round and meeting with every principal. We'll continue to. As this evolves, we'll continue to work with them, make adjustments as we need to make adjustments. It is and this isn't just this year. We do this every year. We communicate regularly with their transportation department.
So the parent realizes this problem, and they go to the principal of the school, and then the school principal goes to us or the transportation department,
CPS's transportation department.
and then they come to us. And then they have a responsibility too, if there's a new kid in the district that I mean, my understanding is our planning department looked at every single kid.
Yes.
And where they were going to school,
Yes.
with the data they got in July.
Yes.
And Google mapped or used whatever planning technology we
Yes.
had to make sure
Yes.
that every trip was good. Okay. But they're new kids that move in.
And there are also kids that move. So this is something
Oh,
that
move, yes. Okay, so there are changes.
this
That's
is
the
something we
point.
do every year.
Every year,
Mhm.
and we will be doing it
Yes.
regularly.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think we also have to be looking at, right, it's possible within Hamilton County, right, or in the city, to be far away from the school that you've chosen, right? So, when you say, there won't be the perfect solution for everyone, and so I believe what was happening, right, we got some parameters with CPS about a variety of different factors, and then sort of made sure everyone fit within that. I believe that's the right
Yes.
way, right?
Yes.
Trip times, transfers, those kind of things.
And we even looked with their transportation department at where the bus stops were. Not just where the kids are dropped off, but where the kids are picked up. We worked with their transportation department on that. We then worked with each principal on where the kids were picked up and made adjustments there as well. And it's something that we do every year.
So CPS sets the specifications of the system?
They don't set the specifications of the systems, but we understand where the kids are. And if we need to make adjustments to a bus stop to move it, from where it is or to add another bus stop, we work with them to make sure that the kids are covered. And again, this last round, we actually met with the principals to talk about where the bus stops were, where we picked the kids up from school, and we made adjustments from there as well.
How many parents did y'all talk to?
I can't turn my mic on. But my understanding is we cannot communicate with.
We do not communicate with parents. CPS does.
That is only CPS that can do that?
We did have public meetings, so at our public meeting, we answered, and you guys got copies of the questions from the public meetings.
And I read many comments.
Yes.
But you can make decisions.
We're also at all of the orientations at the schools as well to answer questions from parents.
This is Robert Harris. Can you tell me, do we have the capacity, or can we arrange for the capacity to make sure that we are in touch with whether it's TV, radio, or who every week or every month to make sure that we have a report as to how well we are working in making sure that the kids are getting on the buses and that we are quick to state if there are any issues and the fact that we have a solution to those issues.
I will make sure that we are communicating with the board and keeping the board updated on how this process is going moving forward.
Thank you.
I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people are having is it's hard to wrap your mind around the changes and then account for all the nuances and the concerns with special needs students, etc. So when the conversations began with CPS, did they bring a host of issues and say, well, we handle all the students and we're in touch with all the parents, so A, B, C, D, E, F, all these concerns are something that we have. How do we, collaboratively address them by these rights? Did that happen, or was that?
That was with our planning and development department and their transportation department. We were meeting multiple times per week for, sometimes all day, for hours at a time, making all of those adjustments to make sure that all of the students where they lived, they could connect to the buses and that those buses could get them to school on time. Literally, we mapped every child, where they lived, where they went to school, what time the school started, and made sure those connections could be made. One of the other challenges we had this year was they changed the school start times. And in changing the school start times, it changed the whole dynamic of moving our buses as well.
Is that information, such as the concern about IEPs or the issue with Government Square and shenanigans happening down there, are those things laid out in a response where we've got, as you responded to different concerns, is that in one space that parents can very easily access and see, oh, okay, if this happens, this is my contact, and so if this happens, then we've got off-duty security, et cetera. Is that available?
We have fact sheets that we've put on our social media, on our website, that we've shared with the schools. We actually took all of the students' ID numbers to not give the students addresses and whatnot, but we took all of their ID numbers so that the schools, and each of the schools have these, they can actually click on the student's ID number and it will bring up the student's routing to and from school.
I'm curious as to what kind of communication was provided to the parents from CPS. Have we seen any of that and how they reported the process, how SORTA was reported in their communication?
I have not seen any communication from the schools to the parents. I listened to their board meeting last night, and I know they were mailing some communication out today, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but now it's so that everybody's technologically savvy and educated. I mean, everybody in the world might be college educated, but that don't mean the parents are college educated. Understand technology and move savvy and
Yep.
I think my emphasis is about who is communicating with the parents. And it's my understanding that CPS is communicating with the parents.
Yes, that's correct.
But I think it behooves us as a board to know how they are presenting SORTA in their communication. Not, if there's anything written or whatever.
Right, so we know that early communications, right, were not favorable. And
That's how they
so,
were presenting to the public. I want to know
Right.
how they were talking to the parents.
that's what I'm saying, same thing,
Yeah,
same
okay.
thing. So, but they had the responsibility to communicate with the parents, and they had a full marketing plan proposed that now we're executing. I think the work with the principals and the superintendent and things now has helped calm that down, so we expect that to go more smoothly going forward. But that's always been the process, that they communicate with the parents, not us, because the parents are their customers. Right? Just going, Brendan, anything you wanted to?
I just want to say thanks to Daryl and John and Khaled and Mark and Brandy and the team, the broad team that's been working on this, I know, for a month and a half or longer now. I know that this has been a very high-profile issue and that there have been lots of questions, and I think that your team has, I know, lost hours of sleep and which is what your job is, and I know that you welcome that in a situation like this because of how much you care about our system and how much you care about how it works. And so I thank you. I believe that you all have acted with honor and have worked hard to represent this system and create a plan that I'm hopeful will work well, and that if there are any challenges, I know that you are the group of people who we can count on to work closely and make any changes that need to happen. And the other group I want to thank in advance is our operator group, because I am struck by what you said, and I'm thinking about all the times that we've been in this room where we've honored operators with awards, or we've heard stories where they have helped people in this community, kids, riders, adults, police officers, firefighters, anybody. And I believe that they are wonderful people, and I appreciate what you said. And I just have the highest level of confidence in our operator team to be able to help serve our students and all of our riders. And so I just wanted to say thank you. And the only comment I would have in terms of request would be to echo what a few others have said, which is to please keep us in the loop this week. We know that there will be lots of interest, and we would appreciate updates from you throughout the week.
Sonia, have you had a chance to?
I did have a question in regards to the after-school service. I know we said there would be buses coming every 5 to 7 minutes afterwards, but for how long? So that parents kind of know, if they miss the first bus, do they have an hour after school? How long do they have in that time frame?
It's between 6 and 6:15, but for the kids that are in extracurricular activities.
I want to make sure we have the question right. So you're saying right at dismissal, not how long you have to take care of it?
Correct, right after dismissal.
So it would be the discussion of the 30 buses coming within 30 minutes at Walnut.
That'll be when the schools let out. And, the schools don't all let out at the same time, but we plan the service for when the schools let out. So that's when the bulk of the buses will be coming, within 30, 45 minutes as the schools are letting out. But also the students that do have extracurricular activities, our buses continue to run. So they'll actually have a pass for extracurricular activity that they can use until 9:30 at night. The students that are in extracurricular, not every student will have that, but if a student has an extracurricular activity, the schools will each have those passes. So all of the baseball players or football players or chess club people, they'll give them those passes that they can use for their extracurricular activities.
Answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I know you all have made comments, so I don't want to sort of force you, but any other questions from this side of the room?
I did want to just make a comment to thank staff. I've been asking questions for several weeks now, and just sometimes asking the same question over again or in a slight different way. And I want to thank you for just continuing to answer those questions and any question that the board or others are bringing up. And to echo Brendan's comment, to thank the operators out there who will be there right with kids, and the staff that'll be at transfer centers, other people as well, and doing everything they can to help each and every kid as they get their educations. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for a great discussion. I think, this is obviously a topic of great interest and import to everyone, that we want to make sure the students get to school safely. With the constraints we had from a operator standpoint and the extra requests we were getting from CPS, this is obviously the plan that was come up together with us and their transportation department. So now we have to make it work, and we will invest ourselves to do so.
If I could do one
Yeah,
thing.
then finish your report.
And I'll just cover one more thing. In partnership with Senator Brown's office, on August 30th, we'll be hosting the Youth from My Brother's Keeper. It's a federal initiative to address persistent opportunity gaps faced by boys and young men of color. and ensure that all people can reach their full potential. So Senator Brown will be here. We'll be hosting that, as well as doing bus tours with Senator Brown and some of the kids. So we're looking forward to that on August the 30th. There are a couple of other things in Metro on the Move I'll ask you at your convenience to take a look at. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Daryl? That or other topics? No? Okay. Any new business to bring? No? Okay. Then I move that we move into executive session, under section 121.22G4, preparing for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees, so we can talk about our status with the ATU negotiations. So, all right. Properly moved and seconded. Roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we move into executive session, so we need to clear the room of the folks that aren't allowed to be here.
I'll see y'all next month.
Okay.
After the executive session, to just kind of give a short.
Brandy will be, and I'll find her and I'll send her out for you. She can probably come out right now.
Okay, that'd be perfect. Thank you so much.
Very glad to see the government watchdog. I'll be